The Nightmare Before Christmas is celebrating its 30th anniversary this year, and I thought I'd take a look back over its amazing history. But first, if you like videos like this, please help this channel by clicking like. I'd also invite you to click subscribe and hit the bell notification icon so you never miss a video. It all started in 1982, when Tim Burton wrote the original story as a 3-page poem that was inspired by holiday television specials Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and the poem A Visit from St. Nicholas, oftentimes referred to as "'Twas the Night Before Christmas." He was also inspired by the clash that he would see at department stores that would sometimes have both Christmas and Halloween merchandise up at the same time. I have no confirmation on this next observation, but I can't help but feel that another inspiration for the film would have been the stop-motion picture Mad Monster Party, released in 1967 and also produced by Rankin and Bass, the same studio that gave us Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. After the success of his 1982 animated short, Vincent, Burton considered developing Nightmare as either a short film or a 30-minute TV special, but nothing worked out. Development stopped when Disney decided it was too weird. In 1984, Burton moved on to direct Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Beetlejuice, and Batman. It was not until 1990 that Tim Burton was able to make a development deal with the Walt Disney Studios, who retained the rights to the story, as then Disney Studio Chairman Jeffrey Katzenberg saw Nightmare as an opportunity to continue the studio's recent success in feature animation. Production began in July 1991 in San Francisco, and contrary to many people's belief, it was not directed by Burton, who was in the process of directing Batman Returns and in pre-production of Ed Wood. Burton's co-collaborator on Beetlejuice, Michael McDowell, was brought in to write the screenplay, but later left due to creative differences. He was replaced by Caroline Thompson, and Tim Burton would act as executive producer. Nightmare Before Christmas would be directed by Henry Selick, who would later go on to direct the stop-motion animated classic Coraline. Nightmare Before Christmas was released under the Touchstone Pictures banner, as it was considered to be too dark and scary for kids, and there was reportedly some concern that the Disney core audience wouldn't like the movie. But Disney did market the film as Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas to convey his involvement, showing that the young director already had a very strong growing fan base. It premiered at the New York Film Festival on October 9th, with limited release on October 15th, and a wide theatrical release on October 22nd of 1993. The film was met with universal critical acclaim, and was regarded as a moderate sleeper hit, making $50 million in its first theatrical run. That number, of course, has increased as of the making of this video, over subsequent reissues. Since its original release, the movie has reached a cult status. Disney parks have stores that operate year-round selling themed Nightmare Before Christmas / Haunted Mansion merchandise. Every year starting in mid-September, Disneyland's Haunted Mansion is re-themed to the Haunted Mansion Holiday Nightmare, and Disney parks and stores are flooded with Nightmare Before Christmas merchandise. But Disney parks and stores are not the only place to get Nightmare Before Christmas merchandise. I challenge you to walk into any store that has holiday merchandise during Halloween and or Christmas time that does not carry some sort of Nightmare Before Christmas merchandise. As for myself, I can remember that my first exposure to the film was while attending a small, local Los Angeles comic book and science fiction convention. The movie had not yet been released, and to help promote it, Touchstone Pictures, was screening a short making-of promotional film. Even then, the studio and the filmmakers knew that they were pushing the boundaries of stop-motion animation, and the short promotional film played up this angle. They, of course, knew that the type of audience that would be attending a comic book and science fiction film convention would be interested in the technical aspects of the film. This promotional film definitely worked its magic with me. I remember being blown away by this initial footage. Not only was I looking forward to seeing the movie when it came to theaters, but I also knew that I would be seeing something technically and visually groundbreaking as well. Prior to the release of Nightmare, there were certain visual limitations to how stop-motion animation looked on film, and most notably, this was apparent in how the camera moved, or perhaps I should say, in how it couldn't move. True, you could get some small amount of camera movement using a zoom lens or a pan from left to right, but with Nightmare that all changed and the camera was able to move fluidly in and around the movement of the characters inhabiting the film. The movement of the camera isn't something that we are always consciously aware of when we watch a film, but that doesn't mean it isn't playing a role in how we perceive and react to and accept the reality that we're being shown in a motion picture. Side note, just prior to making this video, I watched one of those YouTube reaction videos from someone claiming to see this movie for the first time. In this particular video, the video creator noted that while the animation looked good, it didn't look nearly as good as some of the more recent stop-motion animation films he has seen, like Kubo and the Two Strings or The Island of Dogs, both of which are made more than 20 years after The Nightmare Before Christmas. And I thought to myself, this is why I don't watch reaction videos, because this video creator lacked any real ability for hindsight. Yes, movies like Kubo and the Two Strings or Isle of Dogs will probably have technically better animation than The Nightmare Before Christmas. But it was the innovations created by The Nightmare Before Christmas that made those films possible. By the way, I am not knocking either of those two films. I think they're both great and I love them. I am just knocking on certain YouTube creators who don't put a lot of thought into what they say. Meanwhile, back in 1993, I attended one of those early limited release screenings, and the film did not disappoint. My date, who accompanied me at the time, who had no previous interest in animation, was equally impressed. Some years later, when the film was released on VHS, I suggested to the woman that I was dating at that time that we should watch it for Halloween. She had never seen it before and was blown away by how naturalistic it all looked. At one point, she asked me to stop the film and explain the technical aspects of what she was seeing. I remember she thought that everything moved so fluidly that she thought it must be puppets filmed in live action versus animation. To this day, I am amazed at the level of technical achievement this film obtained. It still looks as fresh as it did back in 1993. None of its effects look dated. Its technical achievements aside, though, there is still a lot more to appreciate about The Nightmare Before Christmas. There is, of course, Danny Elfman's outstanding musical score and its songs, which are as memorable and as iconic as anything written by the legendary Sherman Brothers. There is also the film's wonderful cast of characters. Perhaps I will talk about them at greater length if I do a more in-depth analysis of the film itself, but in particular, for this video, I want to talk about the film's main protagonist. I remember during that LA convention presentation hearing Jack Skellington being described as a man going through a midlife crisis. As I look back on the film, I see him as being in a position that most people would find enviable. He is the center of the universe that he inhabits, and yet still he asks, is this all there is?
Is this all that I am? Is there nothing more?
It's such a primal need. Who am I in this world? What am I in this world? And what is my reason for being? And then he discovers Christmas, and its beauty transforms him. The Nightmare Before Christmas is the little film that could. I think it's definitely one of the more surprising successes to come out of the Disney studios. And I think that no one was more surprised by this than the Disney company itself. Originally, the studio distanced themselves from it by making it a touchstone release. And it was a film that they really weren't sure how to market. And yet 30 years later, it has become one of their biggest marketing successes. To this day, it continues to generate merchandise profits year-round, and not just during the holiday it celebrates. Back in 1993, I was attending a party and having a discussion about the film with an old high school friend of mine. He had a lot of very strong religious convictions, and he had some definite concerns about this film. I could tell that his concerns were coming from a true place, but that these concerns were probably originating from his own religious community, since they centered around the possibilities that this film might in some way mock Christmas and thus be in some way blasphemous. I can't remember precisely what I said in response, but I basically told him that he had nothing to be concerned about, that The Nightmare Before Christmas is a film about Halloween monsters who are transformed by the spirit of Christmas. And in spite of everything that has happened to him and his holiday, at the end of the film, After he has saved Christmas, Santa Claus makes one last stop to Halloween Town to bring Christmas to them as well. There is something wonderfully touching about this ending, as he flies up into the night with his sleigh and reindeer, and he shouts out to not just Jack Skellington, but to the residents of Halloween Town, "Happy Halloween." And from the ground, Jack Skellington looks up at Santa Claus and responds with, "Merry Christmas." At the time of the film's release, it spoke to me, and I really felt that it's a film for anyone who has ever felt a bit off, or perhaps a bit left out, or a bit alienated, or a bit at odds with the Christmas season. But also, the film was, in its own way, as technically groundbreaking in the art of animation as Snow White was back in 1937. This is TJR, and I want to take this moment to thank my patron supporters who are helping me to make videos like this possible. If you'd like to be a patron supporter, please go to patreon.com/TJR the original. Patron supporters do receive exclusive weekly videos not available on this channel. And now I'd like to hear your thoughts on this groundbreaking film that is both a Christmas and Halloween holiday movie. I'm curious to hear what you have to say. As always, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Happy Halloween and Merry Christmas.